Good afternoon, good morning. Hi, everybody. Thank you guys for tuning in today. Welcome to Coloring and Conversation on Perinatal Mental Health. I am Andrea Clark. I am the Alliance Director and the Deputy CEO for PSI, and I'm excited. First of all, happy Black History Month. Happy Love Weekend. Happy February. I don't know where you are. If you're somewhere and it's over 50 degrees, don't tell me about it because I'm just gonna be mad. Um, but it's nice and cold and snowy here in Chicago, but that's okay because we have a really hot topic, hot show today. I am so thankful to be joined today by these two wonderful doctors. We have a room full of doctors. I'm not yet a doctor, I'm working on it. But we have a room full of doctors with us today. I'm going to let them introduce themselves shortly, but we are talking today about, since we are in Love Weekend, we're talking about heart health. And what in the world does that have to do with perinatal mental health and maternal mental health? And so I am blessed to have with me two wonderful women today. I'm going to go ahead and ask Dr. Renee, can you introduce yourself and let us know where you are and what it is that you do?
Hi, I'm Dr. Renee. I am a medical doctor, Dr. Renee Matthews. I am a medical doctor. I am in Chicago, Illinois, and I don't practice medicine in the traditional sense. I actually educate the masses about their health through media. So I talk about health on TV, radio, print, and online media. And I'm author of 2 books, Mommy, I Can't Breathe, The Modern Guide to Navigate Allergies and Asthma, and the children's book, No, Renee, You Are Allergic, and they talk about asthma and allergies, which is something that is very near and dear to my heart. And very happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. And Dr. Leslie Davis, can you tell us about yourself?
Yes, I'm Dr. Leslie. People call me Dr. D, and I am a relationship therapist. I'm in Illinois. I'm right on the edge of St. Louis, so I service clients in both Illinois and Missouri. And I mostly work with women who struggle with toxic relationships or couples trying to navigate how to have healthier relationships. But I also have a special heart for heart moms, and I've been able to provide therapy to other heart moms. I'm a heart mom myself, and I like to work with youth as well. So thanks for having me.
Love it, love it. Thank you. Well, we got you on the right weekend then. We talking about the heart and we talking about you got love, you the love doctor and you a heart mom. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Let's start. Dr. Renee, why is it important for pregnant or postpartum women, birthing people to pay attention to their heart health?
So, pregnancy puts a strain on your heart and circulatory system because think about it. You are pumping blood for not just one person, but 2 people. So, your blood volume increases from 30 to 50, between 30 to 50%. So, the heart has to work harder because there's 2 people that it's working for. And then, of course, you throw in the conditions of like gestational hypertension, preeclampsia, all familiar words to any perinatal moms, and of course, peripartum cardiomyopathy. So these are all things that are very important to look out for, and that's why it's so important.
Yeah. Do these things tend to affect like people of color in ways that they don't affect other races, or are there any special considerations for people of
Yes.
color?
Yes, exactly. Black women are the highest risk for maternal heart health complications. And we are unfortunately more likely to die from pregnancy related causes. So, when many of those causes are heart related. So, I mean, when you talk about preeclampsia, and I know people are like, what is that? That is when your blood pressure is just really high in pregnancy. And especially if you're about to deliver, they usually say we have to take the baby now because if we don't, mom could have a stroke and then we'll have not 1 demise, but 2. So yeah, it's really, unfortunately, as many of us know, maternal mortality is a huge conversation in the Black community because even though we live in the United States of America, which is supposed to be one of the wealthiest nations on the planet, it's crazy to think that there are places in Africa that have better maternal health rates than we do.
Yeah.
They don't have our resources. So what's going on?
Right. Exactly. We have I always think about this in terms of part of what we hear repeatedly, just kind of anecdotally about Black women in the health system in general, but definitely like in labor and delivery in perinatal situations, is that a lot of times we are not listened to. And when I think about heart health, and I think about Serena Williams, and her first pregnancy, right? When she had delivered her first daughter, and she was telling like the doctors, like, I don't feel right. Now, here's a woman who has a history of pulmonary embolisms, right? She has a history of blood clots. And she was telling them she didn't feel well. And it was going ignored. Now, I always wonder if she had not been Serena Williams, you know, who knows whether or not, that CT scan that she was telling them that she needed, whether they would have even bothered to address that, right? So I think in terms of, and are we still, if you know, Dr. Renee, are Black women still kind of, in terms of heart health and heart attacks, is that still a leading cause of death period for Black women?
Yes.
Right. Yeah. And so we go into these situations already having some kind of like almost a predisposure in some cases to having these conditions. And then, like you said, the pregnancy puts stress on your body, it puts stress on your circulatory system. And for you then to ignore me when I'm saying that something is not right, is really I'm sure has got to be a huge contributing factor to why our maternal mortality rates look like they do.
Yes, and also one of the indications that something could be going on with your blood pressure could be a headache. And you know that they've been saying that Black women have a higher tolerance for pain. So they ignore that. But really, that is one of the signs saying that perhaps you should check something else out. My blood pressure might be going through the roof. So yeah, and funny thing, they actually covered this on Chicago Med maybe 2-3 weeks ago.
Wow.
It was a Black woman who had been going to the doctor and telling the doctor something wasn't right. And sure enough, she was right. And she gets to the ER and unfortunately, she didn't make it. But she told the ER doctor before everything went left, she told her, I had been telling my doctor something was wrong. And sure enough, their doctor in the ER figured out exactly what was going on. And
yeah.
Dr. Renee, I want to thank you for bringing the seriousness, the attention to the preeclampsia. I actually had preeclampsia when I was pregnant, and I was young. I was 22, first pregnancy. So I didn't know what that meant. And I don't think my doctors ever explained to me how serious that was. But I also had an emergency C-section because of my son's heart condition. But I didn't realize that I was also at risk of death because of preeclampsia. So I think that the information needs to be shared with all moms, but especially younger mothers.
And people don't realize the heart, because now that it's Heart Month, I've been talking about this a lot, but people don't put together heart and strokes. Yes, heart and heart attacks, but if you block the blood flowing to your brain, you will have a stroke. And that's the thing. That's one of the things they worry about with preeclampsia too. They're like, and like I said, you have a headache because your lack of oxygen flow to your brain. So, you want to make sure that people understand this is serious business. And, I know that everyone has their birth plans. I don't have any children yet, but I know and I understand people have their birth plans and they want to stick to it. And I don't want to get cut and I want a natural delivery and I understand that. But when you start talking about these elevated blood pressures, and I'm not talking about just, slightly elevated. I'm talking about blood pressures that are like 3 digits over 3 digits, those are stroke volume blood pressures. You need to listen to the doctor and have the emergency C-section immediately.
Yes, I had to have that. It wasn't me, but it was when I was pregnant with my son, his heartbeat started to decline.
Yep.
And I had been in labor for a long time at that point, and it just wasn't happening.
Couldn't take it in there anymore.
No. His hair wouldn't come all the way down. And my doctor looked at me and she's like, I know you want to have a vaginal delivery. I was like, if you don't get this baby out of me.
So you were against the norm. Most people are like, oh my God, I don't want surgery. But in all honesty. And especially, unfortunately, I've seen stories and heard stories about, dad knows mom's plan, and then mom is all of a sudden now she is incoherent and can't talk.
Mm.
And then dad's like, no, you can't give her a C-section because she wouldn't want, no. You want an alive wife or partner. So therefore, you need to let them do what they need to do.
Amen. I love that. Dr. Leslie, so you mentioned that you are a heart mom. We know that you're a psychotherapist, right? So
Yes.
what is all of this? I can imagine, like, especially because it is like so much in the media. We're talking about maternal mortality, and up until last month, we were really talking about like how disparate like the numbers are for Black women and other women of color compared to our white counterparts. And so I can imagine going into being pregnant and going into a hospital for a delivery like that's already knowing that if you're a Black mom, right? It's already stressful. Like, what does our mental health have to do with our heart health?
So if you think about anxiety and depression, we have physical symptoms that arise. So if you're anxious, you might start to notice that your heart is racing, or you might get those headaches that we talked about. We might see, tension throughout our body. And so that is impacting our physical health when we're struggling with our mental health. And sometimes our physical health can impact our mental health as well. I
Right.
think about some of the heart moms that I work with that are actually heart patients themselves, and knowing that their fear about their own health during delivery, and even thinking about, well, is my baby going to have a heart condition? Because sometimes it's not always caught in utero. They might not find out about their baby's health until later on down the line, even years later. But being a heart mom where you are the heart patient increases your levels of anxiety and depression as well.
Yeah. So then how do you manage that? Like if you're pregnant, and you are concerned about if whether you have a heart condition or when I used to work at the hospital and walk with people as a chaplain, I worked with pregnant and postpartum women and women with medically fragile children, right? So in the NICU, and a lot of times people were finding out difficult diagnoses about a heart condition while they were pregnant, right?
Yeah.
Um, how do you work through that anxiety? Like, what do you do as a mom? What are some of the things you can do as a pregnant or postpartum mom to deal with the anxiety that comes with
Yeah,
that?
I have the privilege of being a board member of Ali Hinkle Heart Foundation.
Mhm.
And Ali Hinkle Heart Foundation has services, mental health services for heart families across the country. And so we like to get plugged into hospitals, especially heart centers, where you're providing mental health support to the families, like from the very beginning when they get their diagnosis for their child, or even after birth and dealing with hospitalizations. But I would say getting that mental health support as early as possible is going to be crucial. And if you can't get mental health support, knowing that you can get other types of emotional support through friends and family is going to be so important, because being a heart family, like that fear and anxiety that comes up, it just never goes away. And so you have to have people in your life that are going to surround you and understand, like, this is hard, but helping you become resilient through the process.
Yeah, I can imagine that as a psychotherapist that works with couples, that you have seen or had some couples who perhaps either because of the birthing person, the mother, the woman has a heart condition, or the baby has a heart condition. Like, how can that affect relationship dynamics?
It's so funny you bring that up. I just talked about this last night on a webinar. So there are huge relationship dynamics that come up because couples, we're individuals, right? So if you're in a relationship, you're going to have different ways of coping on your own. And sometimes you have to worry about coping for yourself, but then making sure your partner is okay. And when you're focusing on your partner, or if you're only focused on the baby and the baby's health, you don't even think about yourself. So you're not meeting your own needs. And that creates conflict within the relationship. I think sometimes it's really important that couples recognize that they don't always have to be strong for each other, that they just need to take care of themselves, and that's perfectly fine. But it's hard to not be there and be supportive when you see your partner, especially if you're the dad and you're seeing the mother struggling with their mental health, if they're feeling anxious. And it can also be confusing. Like, is this postpartum depression, or is this depression, anxiety related to the baby's health? Being able to differentiate that through the health, the help of mental health services is going to be crucial as well.
Yeah. Yeah. That's that,
I
I
need to
think.
grab my dog, y'all, because she is getting on my nerves.
I think that it's crucial to remember that in terms of like managing stress and managing those kind of things when you are, it's crucial, first of all, because as joyful of a time as pregnancy can be, I think like Dr. Renee talked about, like the increased demand on your body, right? Creates an increased demand on all of your systems, not just your circulatory system, right? And one of the things that we know is a contributing factor to heart attacks and other heart conditions, or that can exacerbate those conditions, is unchecked stress. Dr. Renee, what do you think are some other things that can contribute to exacerbating like a heart condition during pregnancy?
I mean, I think stress is like the major one, and that stress could be coming from anything. It could be financial stress, it could be relationship stress. And then, of course, moms are, they want to eat for two, some of them. You don't want to eat for two, you want to eat, you know, eat a healthy diet, and you still want to exercise, all those things, because all of this is changing in your body. You kind of still want to keep things going so that everything still works just the same. You do not, this is how you eliminate, prevent getting gestational hypertension and stuff. You want to make sure, you don't want gestational diabetes. So you want to make sure that you're eating right and you're healthy. But all of these things, I think, people are like, oh, I don't know what to do. It's very stressful because this is a new thing, and all these changes in your body, and hormones can cause stress because your hormones are out of whack and you don't know how you feel. And so, all those things can play a part.
Yeah, I thank you for those things, because I was going to ask you about, so what can pregnant moms do? And we keep talking about pregnant moms, but I'm also thinking about the postpartum period, right? Because your body has been through, for all intents and purposes, it's kind of a traumatic, it's a huge change,
Oh, my
right?
mother always said, and I heard this in med school after she had said it my whole life, but she said that's the closest you come to death is childbirth.
Yeah, it's a wonderful experience for some people, but for some people, um, it is a traumatic experience, right? It really is it is a huge change that happens in a very, but it don't feel like a short period of time when you're going through it.
Right.
But like in this relatively short period of time, there's this huge change that happens. And so, what are some of what you mentioned? What monitoring diet?
Oh,
A lot of people believe that once you get, pregnant, especially if you are a mom that has a heart condition already, like, and should I be exercising? Should I be moving? Like, what are some other things that I can do to like address my heart health and make sure I'm doing well and taking care of that while I'm pregnant or even in the postpartum period?
right. So first, you want to make sure you speak to your cardiologist. Talk to your cardiologist and make sure you understand what you can and can't do. But most women can walk, and that's before or after delivery. You can walk, and if you just walk, and I'm not saying you have to be on some sprint, just walk 30 minutes a day. That could be enough. 5 days a week, that could be enough to, for your heart health. You can, and then the other things, like I said, to decrease stress, because that walking will help, but even meditate every morning, just quiet time. Try to create boundaries so that people don't drive you crazy, because all these things are what causes stresses. And if you just relax, it's amazing what your body will react to if you just relax. But definitely watch your diet and exercise. And like I said, I'm not saying hit the gym and the weights, but if you can and you're used to doing that, your doctor will probably say it's fine for you to continue to do that. But if you're not somebody who was doing that, then at least walk. And I understand we don't all live in warm climates. If you have to walk, walk around your house. Just walk on the inside of your house. If
Mhm.
you just stand in front of the TV and march, that's doing something.
That's
So
doing.
yeah, so just and then swimming. That's something that most pregnant women can do just fine too. Swimming.
It's got a low impact on your joints, and
Exactly.
it really does like work. It
And it
works.
works your whole body, but
Mhm.
it'll get your heart get your heart rate up. But yeah, swimming is great. Walking. I mean, yes, there are some pregnant women that run. If that's your thing, great. Shoot, I'm into the WNBA. There's pregnant women that play basketball. Like I said, you need to talk to your doctor to figure out what you can do. But low impact wise, I think swimming and walking are like two fabulous things to do.
Yeah, I love that. And I love that you said that the reminder too that if you like the high impact stuff, the weightlifting, the running, those kind of things, if that's not something that you do, this is not the time
Just start.
to start weight train, like to start, unless I'm sure that there are some very gifted and very talented. I would love to find a fitness trainer that works with
Well, I'm gonna say,
pregnant women.
I a shameless plug, and I am not getting anything for this, but I'm a Pelotoner, and Peloton actually has a whole program for perinatal moms, and I think postpartum too.
Oh wow.
And because several of the trainers have been pregnant, and it is a hoot and a holler when you're watching your trainer, and she's killing you, and she's just going through the workout just seamlessly. Like, and she's like literally like 6, 7 months pregnant. Like I'm looking like you are huge, a big belly, like you're about to deliver. And she's just, okay, 10 more. I'm like, oh my God, I'm dying. So they've had several of the trainers that I've watched literally working out while they are pregnant. And I mean, and this is weight training, and on the bike or on the tread. So
Yeah.
but yeah, you can they actually have a program. So I'm sure you can get on YouTube and type in something and find all sorts of workouts for free that would be for perinatal and postpartum moms.
Yeah, and probably like difficult, like the level appropriate,
Yes.
right?
Mhm.
So
Yep.
um Dr. Leslie, what I was gonna ask you a question about, so what about for our moms who may be experiencing perinatal depression or postpartum depression or some other postpartum mental health issue that can't quite find the way, like the motivation to get up and to move and to do these things that might be beneficial to their heart. Or I think about my NICU moms whose babies may have had a heart condition and they do not want to leave the bedside. They are going to be at the NICU. They're sleeping there. We didn't even have beds in our NICU for the parents, but they slept in that chair and did not leave that baby's side, right? So, which understandably, right, there's some element
Mhm.
of like anxiety that is completely understandable. But how do we encourage our moms who may be experiencing difficulty with their mental health in the perinatal period to do the things they need to do to take care of their heart?
Yeah, it's really helpful to actually know the signs first so you recognize when you are depressed versus just having baby blues or you're just feeling sad. Like when it's gotten to the point of depression, you need to know this is what I can expect and this is how I know I'm depressed versus these other things. But having that outside support sometimes is more beneficial because you might not have the energy to focus on your own self, but your friends and family will notice when you're going through something. I had just looking at my own journey, my best friend had to make sure I would eat because I was only focused on my baby. My best friend had to make sure I had on matching socks and shoes because I didn't think about those things. I was only worried about my son and, how he was healing from his surgeries and being at bedside literally all day, all night. But that outside support is what kept me focused on just the basic needs. And I think sometimes that's all you can do is just make sure you eat. Make sure you are standing up and changing your clothes. Make sure you are taking showers. And sometimes that's enough. But when it comes to like having a child in the hospital where you're at bedside for weeks, sometimes months at a time, you can ask if you can take the baby out of the room. And sometimes they have strollers or wagons where you can put the baby in there with their monitoring systems and walk around the hospital as long as you know you're coming back. They don't think you're going to take the baby away. But sometimes that is helpful just to walk around the hospital or at least on that unit where you can get out of the room, but make sure you keep your eyes on the baby.
Yeah. And what would you say to moms who maybe they had a scare during their delivery or during pregnancy about their own heart health, and now they are tentative about being active or doing anything too active because of that?
Yeah, that's important to stay in touch with your own cardiology team and your own medical team, because there are things that we might think we can do and that might be harmful to us, but we're not the experts. We are the experts on our own bodies, but sometimes we need those doctors to give us true input of what is going to be healthy and monitoring our systems. If we need an EKG or EEG just to prove to us, or maybe even doing a stress test to see what we can tolerate.
Yeah.
There are cardio workouts, and that's why you talk to the cardiologist, because there are workouts that literally, you have to come to the hospital and we will monitor. They'll hook you up to machines and monitor your heart while you're doing them. So there's such thing as a cardiac workout. And so there is somebody who's going to be there with you. It's not something you're probably going to do at the gym, and they're going to monitor you. If you've had such a heart condition or whatever that causes them, alarm that they feel like they need to, they will let you know. Mm-hmm. And then they will work with you, because that is, it's still important for you to exercise, especially if you're trying to turn it around, because, heart is a muscle, so we can retrain things. So if we're trying to turn that around so that you can be healthy for your child, then they will definitely work with you.
They'll work with you. I think that what I hear both of you saying is that you've got to communicate though with your medical professionals. You've got to communicate with your team, right? And that there are all these interventions, there are all these ways that modern medicine has to be able to help care for you and for the health of your baby too. Mm-hmm. And that it's okay for you to, especially if your mom, maybe both you and baby have a heart condition, right? Or maybe it's just you. And like, I know the feeling of bringing, especially I only have one, but bringing this little person home and feeling this huge sense of responsibility. Like I did not want to leave the hospital. I was like, what I'm supposed to do? Take like what y'all gonna give me this person? Like what am I supposed to do? Right. And so there's this huge sense of responsibility. And so sometimes we get overly cautious, right? And we don't want to do anything. So I can imagine if I'm a mom with a heart condition, like being overly cautious about so what would you say, Dr. Leslie, to reassure those moms that it's okay for you to take care of yourself, that is not neglecting the baby for you to take care of yourself?
If you don't take care of you, you can't take care of the baby. So it starts with you. You have to do something for yourself, and you have to speak up for your needs and know that it's not a selfish thing to do that, to focus on your own health. It's not crossing boundaries, because this is your body. You have to take care of you. And there have to be medical teams available that recognize it's okay for you to ask questions, that they're supportive of you asking questions. And one thing I would recommend to medical providers, and Dr. Renee, I don't think you have this issue, but knowing that you may have to give more information, because some people are just too afraid or they feel intimidated to ask questions, but they still want the answers. So medical providers have to take that first step and give them everything they need in language that's understandable.
Yeah.
Very important.
Dr. Renee, how can a mom or a parent advocate for themselves? Like, I think that we had a guest on a couple of months ago who talked about, like, in the middle of delivery, feeling like she was not getting the support she needed. So she fired the doctor, like right there, right? And so, what are some ways that, like, um, moms can advocate for themselves, advocate for their babies?
So first of all, try and make sure you do that before the delivery. And I mean, really, but honestly, make sure that you all get along. Like you said, it's a team. This isn't a dictatorship. It's not whatever the doctor says goes. The doctor does probably know best, but it's a conversation. And this is you're all a team. So make sure that you have a good team going into this, because the last place you want to do that is during delivery. But you really do have to speak up. I want to say I have a friend, and that's a doula, and I know that now doulas are being covered by a lot of Medicare, and there are certain states and stuff. So I don't know what where everyone is, and I don't know what Illinois' laws are. But if you can, get you a good doula, because they will advocate for you. Because like I said, sometimes people become incoherent and they can't talk, function. And even if you do have a partner with you, he or she might, because of whatever information's being given, they might react badly too. And so then you got two people that can't, actually take care of business. So you need somebody in the room that can handle stuff. So you need a doula. I think doulas are fabulous. I've heard fabulous stories postpartumly about how doulas have been very helpful with moms. So if you can, get a doula, but you really do just need to speak up, and you need to keep saying it until somebody listens. So if the first one didn't listen, then the next one, you need to just keep saying whatever it is. And then if you have questions, please ask those questions. And if you don't get the answer that satisfies you, then you need to ask someone else. But you need to make sure that you completely understand, especially we're talking about two lives here. So you got to understand exactly what's going on. You do not want to be in the dark. You want to make informed decisions about whatever's happening to you and your child. So, and that, sometimes it's a great nurse that will explain it to a level that you understand.
Yes.
Because unfortunately, there are many, people that all they do is talk in jargon, and they don't know how to bring it down. And I mean, most doctors, we hope they have a good bedside manner, but unfortunately, I think a few slip through the cracks that just don't quite have it, and they speak in all of the fancy terms and, Latin or whatever. And you need a nurse that is just going to tell you, okay, honey, this is what's going on with your baby, and this is what we're about to do, and this is what we've already done. And, just that explains it. And please make sure you have it explained before you sign anything.
Yes.
Before you sign anything, make sure you completely understand what's going on. So when you get papers thrown at you and folks trying to rush you, just make sure you understand what is happening and why you have to sign this. Just please make sure. And I'm not saying you need to have your lawyer review it, because usually these things happen very quickly and we need to hurry up. But make sure that the person asking you to sign it has explained it in such a way that you do understand. But all of that is about advocating for yourself. I tell everyone, please feel free to fire your doctor, but try to make sure that you figured it out prenatally. Like if you figure out in the second month that this ain't gonna work, then go get a new doctor. Unfortunately, with OBGYNs, late trimester changing to a new physician, if you in like your third trimester, not a whole lot of doctors is going to be real happy to take you in, just because they haven't been the ones up to this point. And because of the laws with legalities with suing and stuff, they don't want to take on someone else's problem, so to speak. So that's why it may be difficult to change doctors later on in your pregnancy. But if you figure it out quickly and move on.
Right. That particular guest I was talking about, it was not her doctor delivering. It was the doctor who her doctor was on out, right? And so it was whoever's
on call.
Came in, and she fired him in the middle of the thing because he was not listening to her, right? And so it's an extreme case, right? But right, you've got to be your own advocate, and you have to not be afraid to ask questions, right? Not be afraid to have people slow down, and explain things to you, right?
And even in that situation, a lot of those practices that do the on-call doctor, you meet with each one before delivery time.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
we might have been able to establish before delivery that I don't get along with so and so
Mm.
that's not going to work out.
Yeah.
So most of the, if your practice does that, most of the time you are able to at least have one visit with whomever these other physicians are, so that, case in point, the doctor is out of town or she's not on call that day, whoever he or she is, then this new person isn't completely new to you. You
Yeah.
all have at least seen each other once.
Yeah. Yeah. That's how my practice functioned too. Um, do you remember Dr. Leslie as a heart mom? Like, what are some of the questions that you had, or are there questions you wish you would have asked that you know now that you wish you would have asked? Things you wish you would have known?
I can't think of any questions I may have had. I do remember, maybe because I'm very petite, so I look much younger than what I am. And at the time, I was 22 when I had my son. And I remember the doctors sharing more information with my mother, who was with me at the appointments, and they didn't talk to me directly. And I didn't understand why that was at the time. But looking back, I'm like, maybe they thought I was too young. I didn't understand it. But I had a bachelor's degree. I was very intelligent. I knew how to speak up for myself. I just didn't know what questions to ask. But
Mm.
one thing I wish I would have had was a community of support of other heart families. And I don't think I actually found that support until my son was in his late teens.
Oh,
So
wow.
there are several groups like on Facebook for, I would say, heart families where the child has a heart condition, but there are other groups for adult CHD warriors. So if you yourself have a heart condition, you can get support through those adult cardiac groups. And I think some of those spaces are safe to ask those questions that you don't know how to ask the doctor, where you can ask other patients that have experienced it, and maybe gather that information to use when you go to your own appointments.
Yeah. And Dr. Renee, our doulas are going to love you. Here to hear a physician say, "Get you a doula, get a doula." They are going to love you, because you're right. Like, that community of support, or even though it's disrespectful and kind of a slight for the doctor to be talking to your mom instead of you. Like,
Yes.
it is but having somebody else in the room, right, with you, especially during the visits, right, that can hear things differently. That doula is in the room with you during delivery, or even postpartum. And
Mhm.
even if they don't accompany you to your postpartum visits or to the pediatrician's visits, like, they can think through with you, what questions do I need to be asking, right?
Mhm.
If you I would not be afraid to ask the doctors for diagrams or pictures if there's something that they're trying to explain to you that's going on with your heart or the baby's heart, like, and they're trying to describe it to you. Like, do you have something visual that I can see that I don't understand what you're saying? And I will do this, and I'm working on degree number 4, right? Like, I don't care what you think about me, right? Because what my health and the health of my child is much more important than what your opinion is of me asking you this question, right?
I might ask it several times if I didn't understand and you didn't answer it to my, what I think was a good, answer for me that I could understand, then I might ask it again.
Ask the questions again. When I worked in the hospital as a chaplain, I would sit with patients all the time, because sometimes when you're in the presence of the doctor, I understand that some people can get nervous, or you can forget, or you've had so many things. And so I used to sit there with my patients and, like, let's write your questions down. Let me get you a piece of paper and let's write your questions down, or take out your phone and make a note. Let's write your questions down, right? Or those groups that you mentioned, right? If you find the support group, and you have questions of your other folks in the support group, they can even ask you, like, what should I be asking the doctor? This is my first postpartum visit, my first visit to the pediatrician with since my baby has been released to the hospital. What should I be asking, right? And to not be afraid to make use of those resources and that community as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's several websites now. I think with cardiac health for children, there's more research that's been released. And so there's more information that seems to make more sense. I think when my son was born, that research about his specific heart condition really didn't exist because those babies didn't live into teenage years or adult years. And so we're also in that space now, navigating him being an adult with a heart condition, and what does life look like as a, me being a heart mom and a parent of an adult with a heart condition. But I think the heart community has grown significantly in the last maybe 5 to 10 years, where there's so many different websites that are available that do have a list of questions you can ask or should ask, just to prompt your interest of, well, what do I do when I go to my first appointment, or what should happen at the first appointment? It's very helpful and insightful. And I think that's another thing I would say to what I wish I had before. I wish I had a list of questions.
Yeah, I wish I had a list of questions. I was gonna say I would like for both of you, Dr. Renee touched on this a little bit, but for our people who are watching, our viewers, and maybe their family members, one of my big things, since this is Black History Month, I'm gonna talk to my sisters in the diaspora. One of the things that I would love for us to learn how to let go of is this belief that we need to be strong for everybody,
Mhm, mhm,
and that we can take on everybody's um, cares, their burdens, and that we are the fixers and that we are the center of everybody's everything, right? And I'm saying that because it's Love Weekend and I want us to love on ourselves and get loved on. But I'm also saying that because I love women in general, and I love Black women in particular. And I think that we, as Zora Neale Hurston once said famously, have been treated like the mules of the world. And if this last like 3, 4 months ain't shown us nothing, it's like I love those little memes that I see on social media with the world burning down and the black women sitting on the ledge drinking that coffee like I told y'all. This be the 92% sitting up here drinking our coffee like we told y'all, right?
uh-huh.
So um for us, before we get to the point where we're so stressed that our heart is working overtime to help keep us alive, what can we do, whether we're pregnant, postpartum, momming, or single, no kids? What can we do to take care of the stress that seems to so easily get put upon us? How do we take care of ourselves so the heart does not become a problem?
Well,
You want me to
we
answer
really,
that?
really, really need to make sure we pay attention to our diet. Um, Diet is key, and I know, fast food is lovely because I eat fast food. There's no lie. I'm not gonna lie. I eat fast food. I just don't eat it every day. And I understand, you don't have a lot of time, then you need to figure out a way to prepare the meals ahead of time. If you have enough, I always say this to all my friends because they are these people. You make plenty of money. Hire someone to cook for you, because it starts with what you put in your body. It's 80% what you put in your body and 20% is exercise. So if we put better food in our body, we won't have these heart issues. And some of them, I will say, like cholesterol is one of those, it's familial hypercholesterolemia is what it's called. And unfortunately, I know people that are, stick thin, exercise every day, but it was through the family that they have this cholesterol issue. That's not your fault. I get it. But the things that we can help, we need to watch what we eat. We need to drink more water. We need to watch what you eat. So if you can start with eating right, then create boundaries, because you don't have to be everywhere. You don't have to say yes to everything. No is a complete sentence. You do not have to explain why I'm not going to do that for you. You don't have to. And stop people. If they're about to tell you something that you don't really need to know, then don't worry about it. Like me personally, I tell you, I don't need to know all this Diddy mess because I just don't. So I don't watch it. Look, I don't know nothing about whoever that man is in office either. I did not watch the inauguration. I really haven't watched the news since the election. I don't need to know. What I need to know, I'll find out in other ways, but I don't need to know. Like my mother asked me this morning about the snow, and I said, let me look out the window. She goes, what about the news? I go, I don't watch the news. That's not a good idea. So these are the ways that I protect myself. So I live a stress-free life. I smile all the time. I'm walking and dancing and singing, and I'm very happy. And I was like, people think I'm crazy, and that's okay. But you really have to figure out that if you don't take care of you, nobody else will.
Yes.
You need to take care of you because you probably do need to take care of your children because nobody else will take care of them either. So you need to take care of you first, though. Just like they say on the airplane, put your mask on first. So if mom takes care of herself, then she can then take wonderful care of everybody else. But you really need to take care of yourself first. And since you're the mom, you need to make sure that everyone in the house is eating well because I'm telling you, you know, your son was born with a heart condition, but we're creating a whole lot of kids with heart conditions because of the way that we eat. And we're creating kids with diabetes that have adult onset diabetes at the age of 10 because of the way we eat. So it's really important that we start with the food. And no, you don't have to have salt on everything. There's so many other ways to season food, you guys. So many other ways. You don't need to salt everything. So if we can start with eating right and then sneak in a little of that exercise, I think that we could really have some amazing hearts.
Amen.
And you can still enjoy, you know, cocktails with the girls on the weekend.
I love
it. They do say red wine is good for the heart. I'm not one of those people that indulges in it often, but they do say that it is. So I believe them. But you know, just really, it really is about a lot about what you put into your mouth.
What you put into your body. Dr. Leslie, what can we do?
You know, from the mental health perspective, you mentioned like the strong Black woman identity. Like I think most of us identify as being a strong Black woman, and sometimes that is detrimental to us, but it does help us in situations. But speaking to the strong Black women who are listening and watching this, you know, I want you to know that you don't have to be vulnerable, as we're encouraged to be vulnerable. I don't like that word because it means to be open to attack. What you want to be is transparent. And it is okay to be transparent about how you feel, but it starts with you recognizing what emotions you're experiencing. So if you have to cry, you don't have to hide that. You don't have to go into the closet or into your room or to the bathroom and hide your tears. It's okay to be transparent with how you feel amongst the people that care about you. And sometimes when we try to hide what we feel, and there are people in our lives who want to help us, we don't allow them the opportunity to do that. So we have to be open and let people know the truth about what we're experiencing, because that's how we'll get the help.
Ask for help. That's the other biggest thing. For some reason, we think that we shouldn't ask for help. No, ask for help. And like I said, once again, my friends can do that. I'm like, you guys, if you cannot afford to wash the clothes and do this and do that and do that, please hire someone. Because stressing yourself out about it is just, it doesn't make sense. And if you've got 3 kids and they're going in 3 different directions, then you should probably hire someone to make sure that they can get to where they need to go, because you falling asleep at the wheel and having an accident isn't going to help anybody.
Right.
So, you know, there's so many ways to make sure that you just take care of yourself. Just take care of yourself and, you know, delegate. Okay, you do this and you do that and you do this and keep it moving.
Yeah. And I think that we have to remember that, like in the spirit, as we close in the spirit of like Black history, like we are and have always been a communal people, right? Like our ancestors were communal, like that idea of it taking a village, right? It not only takes a village to raise a child, it takes a village to nurture a mom, to nurture a woman, right? It takes a village. We don't cease needing our villages because we've grown into adulthood, needing our villages for ourselves, right? Part of that self-care for me, like I was sharing before we came on, that I'm getting together with some of my friends from church tomorrow for Valentine's Day, right? And so part of that for me is just needing that community, needing that space. Find spaces we are often the only ones in a lot of the spaces where we find ourselves professionally, right?
Mhm.
Um, we are in, you need to find spaces and be intentional about finding the spaces where you can be your full and authentic self unapologetically, right? Where you can take the mask off. Where, like Dr. Leslie said, if you need to cry, you can cry.
Right. Cry, curse, scream.
Cry, curse, scream. And sometimes I am going to have some of that red wine.
Exactly. Or something
Right?
stronger. I mean, you gotta do what
Right?
you gotta do.
Sometimes you need to be able to have those spaces. We have to, and we have to be intentional about cultivating those spaces where we can really be our authentic selves and show up as we are without the pretense, without the mask, and without having to suppress
Right.
you know, anything that we might be feeling. Get you some good friends. I've
Yes.
often said that for me, the company of Black women is a restorative space.
Mm.
Despite what we see on some of the reality shows and all of that, um, despite what we see and what is said about us, like really the company of other Black women is a restorative space. And so get you a village for your babies, but get you a village for yourself too.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And I always say, because I'm somebody that sought help myself, please, I feel everybody should get a therapist, but please get you a therapist.
See,
Even
we
if
love
nothing's
her.
wrong, even if nothing, you feel like nothing is wrong, then let's keep it that way. I,
Yeah.
especially children nowadays, I feel they need to start at puberty
Yeah.
because life is rough and it's real different. So get you a therapist, and I'm telling you, there's so many resources. If your insurance doesn't cover, there's so many resources to get a free one, a sliding scale one, or whatever. There's no reason people should not be able to get mental health help. There is telehealth. There's apps on the phone that you just talking to the phone. So there's all these different ways. I think that it is just it's so important. So just like you were saying, if somebody doesn't recognize the symptoms that they're depressed, well, if you've been going to a doctor regularly, the doctor will figure it out, because your husband may not. He just may not notice it. Your mother just may not notice it.
Mm.
But your doctor will quickly be like, wait a minute, because that's the problem with postpartum depression and psychosis, is that a lot of times people, no one around you recognizes it until
Mhm.
it's too late.
Yes. Thank you for saying that. And we love her. Get you a therapist, get you a doula, because these are our folks, right? These are our folks, our members, and the professionals we support who are doing this great work. Thank you both. Thank you, Dr. Renee. Thank you, Dr. Leslie, for this great conversation. I want to also encourage you, PSI, we are here and we have a number of resources. I know that we've put some in the chat, but they should be scrolling at the bottom of your screen right now. We have a helpline. So if you see the number scrolling, the Postpartum Support International helpline, you can call that number, and we have help in both English and Spanish. And what they'll do is within 24 to 48 hours, somebody will connect with you, call you back, and connect you to some local resources in your area. We have people that work in all 50 states and several countries across the world that can help you. If you need to talk to somebody right now and you need some counseling, you can call the maternal mental health hotline, 833-852-6262 or 833 TLC Mama. It's a 24/7 hotline. There are trained, certified counselors that staff that hotline. Over 60 languages are spoken. And so you should be able to connect with somebody who can talk you through, or if it's you, if it's somebody who you love, who you're concerned about, you don't have to be the person experiencing the crisis, but you can call and they will talk you through that. Or if you are in crisis, if you are having thoughts of harming yourself, or thoughts that are frightening you, please, they make it easy. The crisis hotline is 988. and somebody is there to talk to you and connect you to other resources that you may need. And as always, please check out the Alliance on our social media pages, and on Instagram, on LinkedIn, and on Facebook. Thank you so much to my guests, Dr. Renee Matthews and Dr. Leslie Davis. This has been a great conversation, and we look forward to seeing you next month. All right, y'all. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.